During the week, the AFL warned on ongoing umpire abuse as we start to rapidly approach the finals, a couple of months before the major part of the season with the September finals. And then, of course, right on the back of that, we have Thursday night, the non-goal to Logan Morris after the three-quarter time siren. Some controversial calls last night, particularly Finn Callaghan missing the interchange gates by a whisker, resulting in a 50-metre penalty and a goal. We're certainly not going to umpire bash, and it's rare that we actually start footy preview discussing umpires, but it has become a hot topic, particularly on the back of the AFL during the week, sending out that warning again that umpire abuse from players, officials, they can't obviously control fans, will not be tolerated.
I don't think it's an umpiring issue. I think it's the state of the rules evolution. That is an evolution. It's kind of changing all the time. And from the time way back, Beaver, when the 15-metre penalty for time wasting was deemed by Kevin Shooty at Essendon to not be worthwhile, so they tackle a player after he marked the ball to slow the play down. And it went to the 50-metre penalty. But I was talking to some people yesterday, footy people, and I still think the game is better to watch than it's ever been. The speed, the skill, all the things, the spectacle is outstanding. But because there's a 50-metre penalty for a lot of what you think are just insignificant infringements, and the 50-metre penalty is so often a shot at goal, I think there's this irritation that even I feel a little bit. I mean, you think to yourself, is there an alternative? Like, in other words, do we have to have a... Like, when last night, when Callan went, 6 inches the left-hand side of the line on the interchange, that becomes a 50-metre penalty. I mean, so I think the 50-metre penalty, players and coaches will rort the rules, and the 50-metre penalty is to stop them rorting the rules. But it creates this irritation for people watching the game.
Because the punishment doesn't fit the crime?
But exactly. But I don't know what the alternative is either, Lauren and Beaver. I don't know what, for instance, from what you'd call insignificant, should it be a 25-metre penalty or something? But because the 50-metre penalty is a huge penalty for really relatively insignificant issues.
Or just a free kick on the spot wherever the play is in that scenario. As you say, it was maybe 1 or 2 inches. Yeah. The penalty is exponential to that with 50 metres. I spent a lot of time talking to particularly former umpires and recent former umpires this week for Code Sports, and Shane McInerney was one. He's umpired more than 500 games, and a lot of them, like you mentioned about umpire bashing, Beaver. I don't think it's about the umpires necessarily in this scenario. A lot of people that you talk to in the game, it's more about the overarching framework that they're working under in the system. The phrase that one person put to me was, it's a perfect storm at the moment for the umpires, in that, the development, is that really there? Is that industry best from the AFL's perspective? We know there's been so much made about, I think they do about 4.5 hours a week on a Tuesday. By the time you have a Thursday to what is a lot of weekends, a Monday, spanning fixture across the weekend, when else do you get them in for that one-on-one coaching? So there's that. There's the incredible amount of scrutiny. I spoke to Sam Mitchell last night about in the press conference of, are there more confusing decisions, or are we just so hyper-fixated on it at the moment? So I think it is all of that tied in with these really difficult rules at the moment to adjudicate. There's so much open for interpretation when it comes to, holding the ball, the protected area. We've got the stand rule. We've got this kicking for goal with Logan Morris, where no one really seemed to even know what the rule was in the moment. It was only the following day. So I don't think it necessarily is about the umpires that are out there with the whistle in their hand at the moment, but I guess a broader discussion around just where umpiring is at the moment. This is a billion-dollar industry. The AFL will defend their spend on it every day of the week, but could they be doing more? I think no one would argue against it.
We watch a lot of footy. I don't go to the footy, and I can't remember the last time I walked away thinking, it's badly umpired today. Seriously, I reckon, the umpiring, normally there might be 1 or 2 that you don't agree with, and mostly that's after replays, not at the time. And there's a lot that you can debate because it's a very grey area. I don't see the umpires themselves being poor in the decision-making to make the game flow. But, as I said, the evolution of the rules and the complexity of, the big penalty plus the insignificant kind of stuff that the umpires have to adjudicate on, that's a running of the game thing. It's not, to me, an umpire's decision-making situation.
Never been harder to officiate. Happy to take your calls. Are you happy with the state of the umpiring? 133 693, 133 693 on the Nick Theodosi Prestige Car open line. $100 Harvey Norman gift card to our best caller over the next hour. I think it's as much the inconsistency and from game to game, but that goes hand in hand with the scrutiny. Back in the old days, not every game was broadcast, and I know we've discussed before, Leigh, and some of the younger listeners will be staggered to learn there was games 70, 80, 90 free kicks in a game. Back when you had just the one umpire or two umpires. But we shouldn't be surprised. We've got 4 umpires out there. They're not robots. They're all going to have, just within the game, they're all going to have different interpretations. And I reckon another source of frustration, more and more, we're seeing an out-of-zone umpire make a call from 60, 70, 80 metres away, where the umpire is 10 or 15 metres away. I know there's a lot of bodies around before it breaks open from congestion, and people are going, where's that been plucked from? Because the umpire that's in their eyesight, where the ball is just calling play on, and then it's the bloke right down the other end. He spotted something, and I think that leads to frustration as well.
There was one like that last night down at the Punt Road end. I can't quite pinpoint exactly what it was, where they were actually a little bit closer than that. And then it raises the question too of, okay, well, who's actually the chief here? Who actually gets, the pull on the decision that's eventually made? But
that's a good question. Is there a pecking order?
Well, there isn't. If one umpire thinks it's a free kick, that happens. If the other 3 umpires don't think it's a free kick, well, the what would you call it? The affirmative free kick always takes precedence.
Does Andrew Dillon saying that they're searching ultimately for perfection? I know he said that during the week, that we're yet to have a game that has hit 100%, but we're always striving for that. I mean, it's just such an imperfect game with, as you say, Beaver, so much is open to interpretation in those moments, and there is a bit of subjectivity about it too, isn't there? I mean, we're searching for utopia?
It's those 2 words. There's aspire. You should be aspiring for perfection in everything that happens, is all we do. But don't expect it to be perfect, because practically it will never be perfect. There'll always be the odd error. But I still say, I watch the game and I think there's only the occasional odd error. It's not as if there's a really bad decision every second decision, in my opinion.
Yeah. If we ever had the perfect game from the players, there wouldn't be a free kick paid.
Yeah, exactly. There's a few mistakes, that's right.
Every marking contest would be pure. There'd be no chopping of the arms. You wouldn't get a guy over the shoulder. Everyone would get rid of it correctly before incorrect as well, etc., etc.
It'd be a bit boring, wouldn't it?
Well, but that's where the players make stacks of errors, but then we hone in, as you said, Leigh and Lauren, on 2, 3 or 4 maybe per game from a collective of 4 umpires.
I think the howler errors, as you say, Leigh, they're realistically, when we boil it down, they are few and far between, but it's just the confusing moments that I really don't like. And last night there was one where there was 50 metres paid against James Sicily he kicked it back to what he thought was the player that had been played the free kick, or to that general region he was paid. And in that moment, no one seemed to know what was going on. What was that paid for? What are we doing here? And I think, we sit here and realistically we watch a lot of footy, and I made the comment in the press box last night that imagine if you were sitting out in the stands and it was maybe your second or third game that you'd watched and you've just got no idea what's going on. So
no replays.
I think in those scenarios, it's an ideal world scenario maybe, but we just need to remove the confusing ones because nobody wins.
What about that point? As I say, the problem to me seems to be the 50-metre penalty is the infringement penalty, right? Whether it's the walking alongside of the line when you're going onto the ground. I'm not quite sure why that's a 50-metre penalty, but obviously the rule book says it's a 50-metre penalty. But I'm for the concept of the stand rule. But the stand rule, because it's like seriously, a couple of generations ago, if someone from your team didn't stand the mark, then you'd be castigated
and dragged.
But the coach, the modern tactical thing is, we'd prefer not to stand the mark. We'll go back 20 metres. So the game said, no, you've got to stand the mark. But the players don't want to stand the mark. So you got these, how do you adjudicate that? What would you call it? That we all kind of agree with. Otherwise, we just have the odd technical. Because I don't think anyone is deliberately wasting time now, Beaver. I just think every now and again there's a technical infringement, and that irritates us. That's the problem.
Let's take a few calls. 133 693. Nick Theodosi, Prestige Car Open Line. 133 693. Our special guest in about a quarter of an hour's time will be head of football at Carlton, Chris Davies, who is also part of the selection panel that will decide Carlton's next senior coach. We're an hour away from the Blues taking on the Eagles here at Marvel Stadium. Jim has the new ball on this cool Saturday afternoon. Welcome to 3AW Footy, Jim.
G'day, guys. How we doing?
Okay, Jim. We're well.
Yeah, look, just think it's a bit rough on the umpires. You know, they probably go at 95% during the game. We're not on the bond for going at 65%. So, I mean, it's just double standards. The boys in yellow and girls in yellow do a great job, but we sort of land on that 5% where they're not getting it right. I think it's a bit rough.
Yeah, no, well, I must admit, I don't think I think what we're sort of talking about, Jim, is actually the way the rules have been interpreted or written and the complexity in it, not so much the individual umpire decision making. You know, that's my view anyway. That's not what we're talking about today. The umpire is when I was on the Rules Review Committee, a decade or so ago for a few years, whenever there was a thought of doing something, the first thing was, how hard will it be to umpire? And that's got to be part of what we've got to do as a game. You've got to say that that's human beings umpire. We don't stop, start, and let the video, check things. We only do that for the scoring issues and a little bit about out of bounds. And I just think we've made the game impossibly hard to umpire. That's my view.
Particularly in an era, as you say, Leigh, of social media scrutiny. 100 shows a week, which we're sitting here doing one right now, and a retention issue. You know, the AFL level is dealing with depth issues when it comes to injuries and retention, and that only flows down around the country, doesn't it?
Jim, thanks for your call. Ian, good afternoon to you.
Yeah, g'day, Bruce. I don't think the umpiring's that bad, and I don't think the rules are that bad either. I really just think that supporters are looking for an excuse for why their team lost. And instead of blaming the players for the 150 mistakes they make, they'll blame the umpires for the 4 that they make.
Yep. There is the emotional. The way you're looking at it depends on who you're barracking for. That's for sure.
Yeah, well said, Ian. Very good point. You're certainly in the running for the $100 Harvey Norman gift card. We've got almost a full board of calls. We'll get through as many as we can. Tommy, welcome to 3AW Footy.
Good morning, gang. Hey.
Fire away, Tommy.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you, Leigh. It's the interpretation. There's a couple of things I want to bring up, Leigh. The run around the neck and everything like that, you can't duck your head. The only action is to duck it, the starters. And you've noticed your Ashcrofts and blokes like that now, they kind of actually go the shoulder one, and then they know they're not going to get paid the free kick, so he's been handballing it a lot lately. Right? And the other one, Beaver, when you actually may have a bet, right, and they say that should have been a goal, and they say they didn't pay the goal, what about line betting and everything like that, Beaver? Basically, you've just been shafted from them not getting that 6 points.
Well, I must admit, Tommy, I did think, because 39.5 is the magic number with, there's so many different forms of betting now, but the final margin was 43 on Thursday night. If it had have been, 1 goal more to the Swans and then 37, and the Morris goal doesn't count. But anyway, it's buyer beware, though, isn't it?
If that happened on the final siren, where there's no further play to be, remember the game in Tasmania where the siren didn't sound loud enough or something like that.
20 years ago.
And they said, well, at 20 seconds after the siren, we're going to disregard that, and there was a change of who won, wasn't there?
Only game ever decided at the commission table.
But you can only do that if it's happening, like the Morris thing. If it happened on the final siren, theoretically, you could actually go back and give him the goal, but not at three-quarter time.
But even
it changes the flow of the game.
Sports betting aside, I mean, we could be in for a pretty tight Coleman race this year too, and I'm not saying that it'll be Logan Morris, but it could be somebody else. Yeah,
good point. He's having a wonderful year, Logan Morris. Tommy, thank you for that. Andrew, good afternoon to you. Welcome to 3AW Footy.
Thanks, guys. Look, I really believe it's not the umpires or the interpretation. The average spectator has to deal with the fact that the laws of the game, there's no world sport, look at the World Cup, soccer, cricket, golf, they've had the same rules for decades. And we're the only sport that does it, seems to think we have to change the rules not only every year, but during the year, and then sometimes from week to week. So if we see one incident out of 100 incidents, let's change the rules. And then the average spectator who is not briefed by the umpires before every game or goes to the weekly umpires meetings goes, well, that was a free kick last week, but it's not this week. That was a free kick Friday night, but it's not today. So the problem is, I've been watching footy for 50 years, Leigh has too. We seem to be in the same ball or the same camp as someone who's watched it twice, because when someone says, what was that for? We all look around and go, don't know, because last week it was, or last year it was, or why is the need to change the rules all the time?
Points well made.
The answer is simple. Players and coaches in the modern era, when they're full-time footballers, are rorting the rules the best they can. And the people who run the game have to try and
stay a step ahead.
Well, they're always a step behind because they try to do something to prevent the rorting that's happening.
One suggestion a grand final umpire put to me this week was for the AFL to own the conversation again and create a video on a Monday, not for us in the media, no one's barracking for us, but hey, we'd love a video on a Monday from the AFL umpiring department about where things are at, but using it as a coaching tool to get it into footy departments, get it into clubs every single Monday, using examples from the previous weekend to, keep developing. We know AFL umpires spend a lot of times at clubs during the pre-season, but it keeps that conversation going, doesn't it?
And one of Andrew's very well-made points in the middle of his observations, it is a real thing. You speak to clubs privately and you watch very closely on a Thursday or a Friday night, if you're playing on a Saturday or Sunday, what's the rule? The memo's gone out about that this week. Because there's no doubt there's some weeks that something that might have been just got a little slack or a little casual, they're red hot on this particular thing this week.
That really should be the case, because it's like the normal coaching process when you're coaching anything. Like the teams and the players in the review meetings and their planning meetings, there's a few simple things that they might say, we've got to do that better, we've got to do that better. So if you're going to coach the umpires, you're going to say, I think we actually are missing a few of these, so be more conscious of that. So it certainly happens, but there's no doubt about that. But I think that is normal. If you don't want to speak to the umpires from weekend to weekend, well, that's fine, but they're not being coached at all.
It's an emotive topic, Andrew. Thanks for your call. Ben, good afternoon to you.
G'day, fellas. Look, I think that the last call was spot on. It's never been more complex to umpire, so my hat goes off to the umpires and what they do every week. I also think that this is less an umpire issue and more of a societal issue. We're a really unsettled society that just like to be outraged. Outrage sells, so the media pick it up, and everyone just wants to be angry at the moment, and the umpires, unfortunately, are the lightning rod.
Well, we're certainly, society generally, it's a broad brush, we're easily outraged these days. There is no doubt about that, let alone when it comes to the emotions of following your football team on the weekend, which is meant to be the outlet to get away from all the frustrations of society.
Yeah, there's a bit going on, isn't there, around the traps? But that's where I think it's important, Ben, it's a really great point, like to strip the emotions is a great thing in footy, but to strip the outrage out of it and actually look at this with a really rational lens and go, right, well, what can we actually do here? Are the AFL, as I say, are they attracting industry best in coaches who can earn great money in business and earn great money in the media? Are we attracting, former umpires back into the fold to help coach and develop the umpires? It's a little bit chicken and egg in that regard, but I think it's a broader conversation, outrage aside.